We're ready.
All right. We will now call the City Council meeting to order for June 24, 2019. Please rise for the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation be given by Pastor Tom Finneran of the Cornerstone Christian Church.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council and citizens of Avon Park. Let us pray. Father God, we thank you for today. Each day you open our eyes in the morning and give us another opportunity to do it bigger and better in Christ. As we ask, what would Jesus do? What would Jesus say? We thank you and pray for the city of Avon Park, specifically for the mayor, deputy mayor, all the city council members. Be with each one individually and corporately as you help guide them in their discussion and decisions this evening. Please, Lord, bless and protect all of our city employees and service members, including the police, firefighters, our schools, our teachers, our students, and especially all the citizens of Avon Park. We pray not only for your protection, but also for your direction. For all those you have placed in a position of responsibility and leadership within this great city of Avon Park, we ask that you be the lamp unto their feet and the light unto their path. We ask for your blessings, Father. Be with all of us as we meet this evening in safe travels home. We pray all these things in the glorious name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May be seated. Thank you, Pastor. Mr. Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Councilmember Gray.
Here.
Councilmember Spurlock.
Here.
Councilmember Sutherland.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Bernard.
Here.
Mayor Anderson.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Under consent agenda, we have item number 4, approval of the minutes of June 10th, 2019. Be looking for a motion.
Motion to approve the June 10th minutes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions or corrections?
I have one question under item number F, 13B,
Okay.
where it says city employee list, including the unfilled positions. If I'm not mistaken, I think we only got the paperwork for the unfilled positions. We didn't get the rest of it at last meeting.
Okay.
Unless somebody tells me different.
Any clarification on that, David?
I thought that I had put it out at each spot there, there's a spreadsheet.
It was missing what exactly?
The complete list of all the employees. I thought all we received was the unfilled positions,
I know there was something else that was requested, but I don't.
but I don't think we received it in my remembrance, but I could be wrong. But
Since then, I've been asked for an updated list anyway, so I'll get that to you all at the
Okay.
next meeting.
then that's a moot point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else on the minutes? Seeing none, we will call the roll.
Councilmember Gray.
Yes.
Councilmember Spurlock.
Yes.
Councilmember Sutherland.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 5, we have the city charter amendments. This will be the second reading.
This is an ordinance of the City of Avon Park, Florida, providing for title for the ordinance and the 2019 charter amendments, approving the form of charter amendments, approving the form of ballots for the election, approving the 2019 charter amendments, establishing an election date for approval of the 2019 charter amendments by the electorate, providing for severability of the provisions, providing for conflicts, and providing for effective date.
Okay. Be looking.
When we passed it on first reading, we did fill in that item C, the date of election there.
Okay. We need to fill that in now, you're saying?
Yeah, I'd prefer that we had it for the second reading as well.
Okay. Well, what if we, in fact, do not have a regular election this year?
Then we'll have to change the ordinance to state that it's going to be next year.
Okay.
Right. Right.
Got it. So we need, okay.
So, but this
So,
this
This no-
election, if
yeah.
there isn't, then we'll just change the date
Right.
for that.
Mhm.
Okay. Do you have this election's date? In November?
5th?
November 5th?
I'm not positive.
Correct.
Yeah, it's
the
November 5th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, is that what we passed it on last year?
Well, the qualification period is for the last part of July to the first week in August, so we'll know at that point whether or
Yeah.
not there's going to be an election.
Okay,
Yeah, I just have one correction to this.
So do we need to put it on there or not?
yeah.
Okay, November 5th. Yes, ma'am.
It should be Deputy Mayor
Where are we at?
Bernard on page 2 of 21. And I know it's a draft, but
Oh.
council members
Yeah,
need to be
actually,
swapped over there.
Oh, sure,
Sorry
that's
about
right.
that.
Yes.
Okay.
Did you vote on your contract
An
last
old,
time?
an old form.
That's- you're-
All right, so
you're
the changes
excused.
would include, on
The
page
date.
number 1, the date of November 5th, 2019, as Charter Amendment Election Day, and on page number 2, we'll be changing Councilmember Deputy Mayor Gray to Bernard. Any other changes? Anyone?
Nope.
Be looking for a motion.
Motion to approve the second reading of ordinance 02-19
Second.
With stated changes?
with stated changes, of course.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further questions on it? Seeing none, we'll call the roll.
Councilmember Gray.
Yes,
Councilmember Spurlock.
Yes.
Councilmember Sutherland.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 6, Special Magistrate RFQ. Jerry, you want to give us an overview?
Yeah, so this are the responses we have for the RFQ. The agreement here, you need to vote on selection of one of these two firms. There are only two firms that responded, right? Is anybody, are there any representatives here from those firms?
Don't believe so.
Okay.
Can I make a recommendation on this?
Sure.
My recommendation would be to accept Seth Benson Claytor of the Boswell and Dunlap law firm. That's out of Bartow. His hourly rate was a little bit less than the other one, and he's a little closer.
You know, the only problem I have with that, and it seems petty to me, is that I like the Boswell Dunlap firm. I've known the folks there for a while and so on, but they do technically have a lawsuit against us. Yeah, and so, I just realized that, this morning and hadn't had a chance to really evaluate whether that's create an issue for them, or not. So, I'm sort of hesitant to
Is
say.
it a code enforcement lawsuit?
It's just, it's liens, basically. It's just a foreclosure of property. They're not really suing us, we're a nominal party, so to speak, because we have some liens, but they're basically trying to foreclose our liens. I'm sorry,
No,
what?
they're local.
no.
So, it's not an issue as far as I'm concerned with, we wouldn't use them because they're suing us or anything like that. That's nothing like that. It's just, it could be an ethical conflict for them if they did, if there was a conflict of interest between them. I don't know. I haven't looked, So, like I said, they're fine people. I know, the folks over there, have worked with them before.
But if you read down, it says that they charge $100 for each appearance, so they're actually
Yeah.
more expensive than the other
Yes,
ones.
that
They're
was-
$100 per
yeah.
flat rate for travel plus the $175, so they're actually more than Thanos, rather.
I agree, and I also have a question for you, Jerry, because the first company, Guy Harrison,
Good-
Who's
Also
not-
a good firm.
not billing for his travel time, which is great, but in the other one, on the Boswell one, they're talking about the fees for additional people, whether it's a second attorney to fill in, or as well as a type of law clerks and so on and so forth. And I'm just wondering if that adds up to even more money than the 175 plus the 100 travel. If the second person is 160 in travel, and then if you also got, you know, people doing legal work for them, is the first firm charging us for any of that work?
No.
Or- No?
They're
I
only
didn't
charging
see-
the flat rate of 190.
Just so in other words, if he, whatever job he does here, if he has to go back to his office and write up any paperwork to get to us, it doesn't show where he's charging that. Whereas the other firm, it looks like they're gonna have other people billing us for their time also. So it looks to me like they're actually way out of whack when you add that up.
I'd be surprised if they're not, you know, if they're gonna have to do the orders, which are fairly complicated for these things. If he's gonna do the orders, then I'd be surprised if they're not gonna bill for the time for doing that.
Well,
That's-
How many
you know,
times do they come, David? I mean, is the current
Once a month.
once a month? So I mean, it's a difference between 275 and 190. It's an $85 difference, just on the initial, if it was 1 hour that they came, right?
Right.
So I mean, if they're
Yeah.
only here for 4 hours,
But the $100 travel fee is not shocking to me.
no, but one charges it and the other one doesn't.
which is shocking.
Right.
He's farther away.
It's a 15, so. I mean,
They're
at least
they're
they're,
both good firms. You know,
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't.
All
think
right,
I'd-
well, you got a 50-50 chance, so does anyone want to make a?
I do want to point out, since I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
But the mention was made with regard to replacement attorneys. I mean, they can't have replacement attorneys. You appoint a person, not a firm, a person as the special magistrate, because a person has to sit like a judge, quasi judicially, in that position. You could have an agreement whereby somebody could fill in, but in order to do that, you'd have to appoint both people. And you can't, because you can have multiple special magistrates, you just can't have them hearing the same cases, obviously. They'd have to hear different cases. So the replacement person, if they were there, could not hear the second hearing of one that the first person has heard.
I
You know,
see.
Unless the first person's gone totally, in which case, you know, you have the new fill-in. But
Okay.
it's kind of a,
Well, like it says, though, this firm may utilize 2 of its qualified office staff, and then it shows what their rate is, which is $100 an hour for one and 75 for the other. I mean, so
yeah.
if we're gonna get charged that every time, that's just, to me,
Well, I can't
I
see-
guess, if it
Yeah.
was me, I'd make a motion on the first firm, pending that they do not charge us anything for office work.
well, I think it's pretty clear. It's him. He's a one-man show.
Well, if that's the case, then.
I mean, if that's how you interpret that, I like the fact that he was a judge, a circuit judge, city attorney. You know, it looks like this is a retirement job for him. You know, I mean, he has an
Yes.
extensive repertoire, but behind him, and
Plus city manager, city attorney, I mean.
yeah. I
and
mean, he
look
knows a
who
little
goes.
bit of everything and is familiar with city operations, so that makes it nice. He'll be familiar with code enforcement. And that's really what we're looking for.
Plus, he used to work in Joliet, Illinois, which is about an hour away from where I was born. I wish he was here tonight so we could chat. But
All right, is anyone willing to make a motion?
I will. I make a motion that we appoint Di Harrison as our code enforcement special magistrate.
Specifically, Thomas Tanis as their
I'm sorry. Yes,
Yeah,
counsel.
because you really have to.
Yes.
Yeah, his
I
name.
apologize for that.
No problem.
Yep.
Okay. so we
Thomas
have a-
Thanis. Okay.
I will second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Further questions? Seeing none, we'll call the roll.
Councilmember Gray.
Yes.
Councilmember Spurlock.
Yes.
Councilmember Sutherland.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 7, inspections of residential rental properties. Jerry, it's you again.
Yeah, I'll be putting that, a new ordinance, new code provisions together and hopefully have it for you for the next meeting on that. It is kind of a little bit of a morass, but I think we'll get there.
Looks like you had some questions for us or for input. Is that what you were looking for with this?
Not yet. I think once we get the ordinance, then there'll be questions.
We,
Okay.
we did have this ordinance in effect prior, and then in 2014, I believe, it was actually, the council repealed it, and that's where we've been ever since then.
Yeah, I think
Right.
it was a lot longer than that ago, but at 2014, it was revised, I think. But
That's
I'm not
when it was
sure.
repealed. That's
Yeah.
when they no longer charged for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was in 2014. Okay.
So when can we expect a draft of this?
I'm hoping next meeting.
Got it. Okay. Any questions?
Depends on what else I get.
And Jerry, I just
Yes,
wanted
sir.
to kind of touch on this a little bit. I know that we talked about this. The occupational license fee that we currently have is $5.50 for an apartment. And 5 to 15 rooms is $22. It doesn't talk about a specific home. It just says lodging home, motel, hotel, apartment, boarding house, but it doesn't say residence. In the meantime, what do we do? I don't know, is there any fee that we collect? Is there a fire inspection fee that's done when residential rentals are looked at? I mean, are they considered a business?
Only if it was a business.
But isn't a rental? Well, I guess not. It's a residential. It's,
A lot of it's going to come down to enforcement.
I'm going to include that review because obviously if you have that inspection associated with the occupational license, we can't be duplicating the one that you're going to be doing for rental. And I think it'd probably be moot at that point anyway because it's far more comprehensive. The rental inspection program that I'm modeling after is Temple Terrace is pretty specific. So
are we
Okay.
doing rental inspections still? We are, right?
Occasionally.
Occasionally.
Right.
Well,
This
the
is-
fire department goes out there and does something, doesn't they?
They do business
For
inspections.
businesses.
Right. That's the purpose of the agreement, so that we can have something in place so we can actually do them.
Can you do a fire inspection in the in the rentals, in the residential rentals? Is that
Yeah.
allowed?
sure.
They used to do it, didn't they?
Right.
Yeah.
I thought only code
No, well,
enforcement did
and
it.
No.
predominantly, I mean, all the codes I've looked at, usually it's the fire department that actually issues the permits for the rental inspection. You know, because it is, the primary purpose is that, but some cities have, like a, minimum, standards for housing and so on, housing ordinance and that you don't have anything similar to that. But they have something that's minimum standards for the housing, and then that's part of what they inspect for. It's all done at one time.
Okay. Well, he will have a draft for us so we can pick it apart at the next opportunity. Seeing nothing else on that, we'll move along. Under staff updates, we have US 27 and Valerie Boulevard, Wawa Water and Force Main bid recommendation.
Yes, this was actually approved as a project last year. The city agreed to extend water and sewer south along US 27 to serve new development. This item seeks approval from the council of the submitted bid to perform the extension of the lines. Excavation Point was the low bidder on that. I'm recommending that we accept their bid of $215,573.
All right, do we have questions on this?
Yeah, I have a question. I called Ronnie about this today, and I guess the question I had was why are we running a line to Wawa? And I think we talked. It's about that as a general concept, and he said it was a holdover from the previous administration.
Correct.
And I don't blame him for it. Don't blame anybody here for that. But my question would be, why can't we still have them pay for their pro rata share of the carrying capacity of that pipe?
Pay for what,
I mean,
Jerry?
extension fee. A main extension fee. They're basically their flow, their usage of a pipe that we're putting in.
Uh-huh.
It's called a main extension fee. Or it's, it
Which
has-
is not the same as a connection fee.
No, the capacity, it's not the same as the capacity fee for your treatment plants. It's similar in regards to the treatment plant, people buy capacity at the treatment plant. But it's the same thing I was mentioning at the last meeting with regard to Nucor, and I don't want to be inconsistent on this point. If you're going to do it for all. If you're not going to do it, don't do it at all.
I think it's a very good point, and I would simply say that we shouldn't do it for all. I mean, this is our line that we're extending. We're collecting fees from that. We get impact fees from that. We get connection fees from that. I don't really see how it is the business's burden to pay for that service.
Totally your choice, and, if you want to go that route.
Yeah.
There's two options here. I had put it in the city code, and I can just take it out of there. I put it in their amended version that I'm putting together of their agreement. I can take it out of there. Just what is your pleasure in that regard?
So
Because-
I just want to get it straight. Okay, we've talked about all these fees. I just want to make sure that I'm not calling something the same thing with two separate titles. Okay, so there's a capacity fee. What's a capacity fee, and do we charge capacity fees right now on the books?
Well,
Is it a
I don't know
policy
if
that
you
we
charge
have?
them on the books or not. I think you are. I don't know why you wouldn't be.
That's the
I know
same
back,
as usage.
about several years ago, there was a moratorium, but that's been a long time ago.
So is that
it's
considered
a-
the impact fee? Is a capacity fee the same thing as an impact fee?
Impact fee is a big class of fees for like libraries and roads and things like that you can charge because developers are building homes and projects that are going to cause an impact on your treatment plant. It is a theoretical purchase, and I say theoretical purchase of capacity at your treatment plant. So if your treatment plant has 1 million gallons of capacity and somebody wants to move into the city, a new customer, not existing, this is a one-time payment by a new customer, and they were at 100,000 out of 1 million, then of course they would pay 10% of the cost of your capacity. And the way that's determined is you have a study done for capacity fees at your treatment plant, determining peaking factors and all that sort of stuff. And ultimately, they develop either per gallon or a meter size type fee for that. You have it in two ways. You have it for water, you have it in meter size. Okay, so at certain meter size, it costs this much. If you go up to the next size meter, it's going to cost more. It's going to cost more. For wastewater, it's not a good way to do it by meter size because most people don't have sewer meters, but you can do it based on the water meter. But here it's done by gallons, which is the most common way and the way private utilities generally do it. So how many gallons per day are you going to use of the treatment plant? We'll set that aside for you, that 100,000. So you have to pay 10% of the cost of rebuilding the plant. That it's broken down in a per gallon charge.
Okay, so do we charge capacity fees right now?
As far as I know, you are, but I don't keep track of the accounts, and I haven't been here long enough to bill anybody. I know when I was here before we did, so I assume you still are.
Jared,
The only people
We
we
do
didn't
charge?
the only people we didn't charge was the school board, and that's prohibited by law.
Yeah, I mean, the standpoint that I would look at it from is in years past, and we're talking a long time ago, the city did not make a quote-unquote extra revenue or profit from the water service and sewer service. Now we do. The rates have changed to where we're actually make a surplus every year. Used to, wasn't it statutorily we were not allowed to do so? And now that's changed?
No. It's still a law that you're not supposed to seek really a profit from the water. You're a
Right.
nonprofit entity. It's not a violation of the law to make a profit.
Right.
But, if it gets way out of realm, then somebody could challenge your rates if they're too high.
Right.
But the capacity fee has nothing to do with the monthly rates. They're two totally different things.
I understand, but
And you can't use those fees for anything but replacement of plant.
Right.
So they go in, you replace the plant. If you don't charge it, I think it's a huge mistake, simply because you are basically saying to the ratepayers, we want you to pay for all the new plant that these people have used up. So take, for instance, Nucor, if they used 20% of your plant, or 10% of your plant, or whatever it is, then you'd have to replace that capacity eventually in order for you to keep growing and serving new people.
Right.
But the way that you have to do it then is you'd have to pay for it with bonds, and bonds come out of the rates.
So-
Okay,
I'm sorry,
hold
go
on one
ahead.
second.
Go
Let me
ahead.
just finish this thought.
Okay.
In years past, we did not have a surplus because the rates were set up such that we would not have a surplus at the end of the year. However, the structure of how our city makes revenue is set up such that we have a surplus every single year. So our entire way that we, call it what you want, make money and make extra revenue is we have it set up to where we make a lot of that through our water and sewer service. In years past, we didn't do that. So if you're not making a surplus, I would understand why you would really have to collect every fee all the time. But now, because we have a surplus every year and because our rate structure is such that we end up with a surplus, our entire way we do business has changed.
But Jerry, just one question after his thought there. Is it true that utility line income cannot be used for plant improvements?
That's not true.
What, the utility, I mean, if you're making monthly rates, that you're getting the revenues for the regular bills that you send out, you can use that for anything, okay?
Right.
But the impact fee,
The
the
capacity
capacity
fee.
fee, which is an impact fee,
Mhm.
can only be used for what it was calculated to replace,
Which was the plant.
which was the plant.
And-
So you will have an expansion of your plant. I think that Ronnie, I wish he was here, has actually gonna have to have an expansion, which is gonna be not just a few $100,000, it's gonna be
Yeah,
tens
I'm
of
just
millions of
itching to say
dollars.
this though. So the money that we have set aside right now, the $6 million that we have, is that for the plant alone, or can it be used for utility lines?
Well, it depends on where it came from. If
And
it came
that's-
from your monthly rates.
So we really don't have
no
6
problem.
million to be spending on lines. We only have that on whatever that money came in from. So if there were capacity fees that contributed to that, that can only go for the actual plant itself. We can't take that money and build lines with it.
Yes,
It can
I-
only be for the plant.
That's correct, I believe so.
So to carve out what is plant money versus utility line money is what we really know. And that's the bottom line of how much money we have for utility lines.
Right.
So what is that number?
Sitting here, I can't tell you that, but the debate is not over charging impact fees or capacity fees. That we're doing. The debate tonight is over the extension fees.
And that's totally up to you. It's not something that every city charges. I would say that most, or many private utilities charge it, and the PSC proves it. Simply because they know that the alternative is the customers pay. The existing customers or the customers that connect, including the customers that connect. So, I mean, it's to pass it on to developers who pass it on to the people that are coming from North Carolina that buy a house here.
Joe, I have a question. So I just want to make sure that for this extension fee that Wawa is requesting from us, I want to make sure that we're not doing different from what we did for the
plant.
the plant people.
Yeah, no, you're extending a main for them, and so far, nobody said anything about what it's gonna cost. I assume somebody's, charge them capacity fee, but I certainly wouldn't connect them until they do, because it's hard to collect it after the fact. I had not even, I asked about an agreement, and Ronnie was not aware of any agreement, for that project.
For the Wawa project?
Yeah, are you aware of one?
I am not, but that was a previous administration and council that did that.
Yeah,
So
but they still need an agreement. I mean,
something would have had to have been approved,
Hmm.
and this discussion we're having now should have been done then.
Okay.
I have one question too. I believe when this was first brought up, the existing council voted on us buying property so that we could extend it that distance, if I'm not correct.
I
And
don't remember.
I don't remember.
I thought we had to buy some property for us to continue from somewhere off of,
David Citrus?
from there all the way to 27.
Easements, perhaps?
Yes.
Yeah, it would have been easy.
Easement, maybe.
Our line right now ends there at the, that business that was called Red Solo Cup.
Call what?
the red Solo Cup. It's been a
bar.
bar, different places for years.
Yep.
It's right before Ridge Equipment. That's where our current line ends.
Well, don't we have a hookup so that if the
I thought it went all the way around.
Yeah, I thought it went, if the
Because
hospital runs out of water, didn't we have a hookup where they could draw water from us?
redundancy, yeah, but that goes across the street. I don't know, I may be wrong, but I thought the lines went through the woods, kind of, the backside of the elementary school.
Yes.
On
that's
that
what-
little road there, which
right.
is not Valerie. So it doesn't go all the way to Valerie. It's gonna have to be connected somewhere down there where, it connected to the
Well-
mobile home park.
I guess my discussion is if we had to pay a fee or buy a piece of property to do this, then it'd be nice if we're gonna extend it to one customer, that somehow there'd be some fee involved to that.
Well,
So you
my-
would have the capacity fee and the connection fee. Those are,
Right.
those are a given that we do all the time. It's my thought that I would prefer not to do an extension fee only because we don't have anything that is a done deal in writing, in ordinance or anything like that. But we can start working on something like that will kick in 2025.
I don't think we
Or
should.
something like that.
We should do it because it just puts more of a burden on the businesses that
Well, I
want to
agree,
connect.
I agree, but I'm just saying for the future, and we can actually impose a moratorium on it in 2025, but at least that way we know. Because the capacity fee is the only thing that pays for plant expansion. You cannot use the other monies for that, so at some point, we're gonna have to
charging a
expand.
capacity fee. We've always charged capacity.
Okay, but that's only for plant expansion. So all the money that we have isn't for utility lines. So if we were short $1 million and 800,000 of that was collected from capacity fees, you can't use it because that's only for the
Do
plant.
you think that we're going to fund that $15 million plant out of these fees?
That's the question. You keep saying that we have the utility, $6 million sitting in there,
The
so.
only way that would happen is if you got some form of a grant.
Exactly. So
Well-
I know that we're working on a couple of grants right now, so the hope is that is gonna supplement whatever we don't have, but it really comes down to knowing what exactly is capacity money in terms of what's plant, for the plant and what is not. We
Well-
have another thing in here for a generator for the plant, that was gonna have to come out of I would presume, the capacity fee because it's gonna be for the actual plant operation. We just need to make sure that we know which part of that money is which.
David, do you think it would be a big hindrance to put this off for one more meeting?
I don't think it would be a big hindrance, no.
Okay.
Well, this project probably doesn't really matter.
Yeah, this is just an engineering.
There's just engineering approval, but we need to find out if they have if they don't have a contract, they need to have one so they can pay the capacity fees. And, it doesn't have to be anything elaborate. If it's just gonna be, you're already committed to putting the line in, but,
The last thing I heard, that they haven't pulled any permits at all to even build, so.
But they are gonna do it. We know they're gonna do that.
Ronnie said he
They
thought
already
that
tore
they're.
the church down.
Ronnie said he thought that they were already well on way to construction.
No,
It's
they
still a
just
dirt pile.
demoed the church where it's going.
Oh, okay. Well,
Nevertheless, we need to find out.
yeah.
I'll do some homework on it.
Yeah, they need to pay capacity fees, and once they get connected, forget about it. It's tough you can collect it, but you have to go to court to
Okay.
collect it.
Okay.
So this is not,
This isn't about the others. This is just approving the contractor to do the work.
Correct.
But if you're
Right.
not gonna charge them a main extension fee, then we shouldn't charge one to Nucor.
No,
Exactly.
right.
So I'm gonna take it out of the agreement if that's the will of the council.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
to be discussed at some later date for future, who knows what.
Right.
Okay.
So in regards to this actual contract for excavation point, I make a motion that we approve this contract submittal by excavation point
In the amount of
of $215,573.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions? Seeing none, we'll call the roll.
Councilmember Gray.
Yes.
Councilmember Spurlock.
Yes.
Councilmember Sutherland.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I will not give them a start work order until we've got all these other issues taken care of.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
I just have one question on this as well. Is there going to be CEI required for this? The inspection, construction engineering inspection, are we gonna have to put that out to bid to have someone monitor this? I know it's not a grant,
Yeah.
but do we still have to have that?
Well, generally speaking, that what happens is your own engineer that did the design does their own inspection. It's just the grant people don't trust your engineer.
Right,
I mean, not this particular one, but just in general, they say, you know, we don't trust whatever engineer does the design to be faithful in checking their own work, so we require that you have an additional one.
so did Polston
This is
do
it.
the engineering on this, David?
Yes,
Do you know how much that cost?
I don't have that in front of me.
And do you know whether or not they've already set up as being the CEI for this either?
I don't think there is, since this isn't a grant. I don't
Yeah, but,
think
I
so.
mean, if they're gonna do their own thing, but anyway, I'm just curious as to what that actually cost in engineering.
I'll find out.
Okay, thank you.
All right, item number 9, wastewater plant generator.
The generator at the wastewater treatment plant can no longer supply power to the plant's infrastructure. This item seeks council approval for preliminary work on installation of a new generator to operate the plant should it lose power. This is already in the budget. This was discussed last year for this year's budget.
Do you have a total cost of the project estimated?
There's about $700,000 in the budget for the project.
And with all the, hurricane preparedness and all that going on, was there no grants that we could possibly utilize for that?
I don't know.
Maybe? Okay,
Possibly.
got it.
But Kimley Horn will at least tell us what we need
Yeah,
in the way of this. Obviously, the generator that we have out there is 35 years old, and it's grossly undersized.
yeah.
David, I didn't check the procurement. This is below CCNA, the amount, is that, or, because I know they're not one of our continuing contract engineers.
We were didn't we approve that last week, last 2 weeks?
I don't,
Didn't we
What,
have
the
them?
CCNA?
Didn't we add them for CCNA?
Kimley Horn?
no, I would have known that
No.
because we have, there's scoring
No.
sheets associated with that. I asked
Okay.
Ronnie to put together some scoring sheets for this
No, yeah, only
procurement.
Polston was added to it. They renewed theirs.
And they're already a continuing contract, but the we're going to be selecting some, but I haven't seen yet that come up on the agenda yet. But if it does, we need scoring sheets for that.
Okay,
If you need help putting those together, give me a call.
I will.
So what are you saying? That Kimley Horn can't be approved because we don't have a selection sheet?
If they're not a continuing contract engineer and the amount is above the minimum procurement amount in CCNA, which I don't know off the top of my head.
Is it 75,000?
I
We have engineers out there. Do you guys know?
I'll look it up.
Okay.
I'll get back to you.
Okay.
Meeting.
This is for 34,775.
I'll look it up.
I think it's well
If
below
it
us.
changes,
Is that gonna take a minute, or?
it's going to take a few minutes.
All right, so we'll just skip over this and move on.
Right.
All right, we'll come back to that. Item number 10, CCNA or Polston Engineering Services sub-agreement.
This is the final draft scope of work sub-agreement for Holston Engineering. This includes the things that were not in the original agreement. This includes the lift station design and engineering and the fire hydrant design and engineering.
Okay.
And right
And this
now,
is for the job grant?
yes, for the
Correct.
EEO grant.
So, in the original job grant, I believe that there was 104,000 and something for engineering. I just want to ask, there's no dollar amount on this page here where it says compensation?
Yes.
Is that, I don't know.
I'm not happy with that either. The total fees should not exceed estimated no dollar amount. I mean, I think.
Well, I know on the very last page of that little chunk of
Attachment.
stuff that you have there is a dollar fee of 78,000.
Attachment B.
Okay, so,
Yeah, the only thing that's questionable is the changes.
okay, but the 78,000 is the bottom line with Polston in regards to this entire project engineering.
With the exception of,
With the exception of
changes.
changes.
Okay, so without those changes, we don't know. So let me ask you, David, on the CEI that we approved for, was it Carl Cool a couple of meetings ago? His came in at 90,000 or something?
Yeah, that's why we decided to go out to bid on that one.
So the CEI is more expensive than the actual design.
Okay, when you get a chance, I just wait.
It was put
Okay.
off. We didn't
So we did not approve the CEI?
approve that.
Okay, I thought we had, okay. So that's out to bid right now? you say?
We're requesting qualifications for someone to undertake that work.
Okay.
It was not approved.
Any other questions?
Well, will we get an idea of what those dollar values are going to be?
He told me I've got.
Shall not exceed 4 X's?
Yes. That seems like a lot.
He told me on the phone today, and I wrote it down. It's on my desk on a note. I didn't include it on here.
Was
but-
that Marvin Wolf that you spoke to?
No, it was
No.
Ronnie.
Okay.
I want to say it was around 17,000. That's what I want to say. It wasn't a shocking number to me.
I'm usually not fond of having extra staff here if it's not necessary, but I think when we're talking about infrastructure and engineering things, I think it would be helpful if we could have Ronnie here when we have 3 items on the agenda to discuss. It'd be nice if we could have him at future meetings, if there's possible questions, because
And move these things at the top of the meeting, that way he can skedaddle.
that's fine too.
Yeah, because he has a long way to drive home.
Okay. That's fine though, but he's an employee.
I don't have a problem with that.
So do we want to make a motion to approve this if it's less than so many dollars, or do we want the exact amount in the process of, eliminating more bureaucracy?
I would go with not exceed amount.
And you think it was around 17,000,
That's
David?
what I want to say.
So if we said not to exceed,
25?
well, I was going to say 20.
I was gonna say
Okay.
20.
Okay. I guess anything above that would have to be additionally
Bring it back.
approved. Yep. All right, is anyone going to make that motion?
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve not to exceed 20,000 in the XX areas of this contract, scope of services for Polson Engineering for this addendum,
And I'll second that.
Yep. And that was
task order 001-19.
Yes.
under task 4. Okay, do we have any other questions on that? Seeing none, we'll call the roll.
Councilmember Gray,
Yes.
Councilmember Spurlock,
Yes.
Councilmember Sutherland,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Jerry, you found a
I have.
conclusion?
So it says construction amount does not exceed category 5, which is 325,000. Sounds like it does.
Yes.
You said it was 600,000 or something?
We have 700,000 in the budget
For
Okay.
this project specifically.
for the generator
And
project.
what was the cost of the engineering?
34,000
34.
and change.
But that's not a coincidence. 35,000 threshold there. So, because that says category 2 for planning. So it has to meet those criteria, and it apparently meets the engineering aspect of it. I don't know, the generator project cost you 325, but I could be wrong. But that's,
Yeah.
Okay, so we're good to go for the engineering portion of this?
What happens if they have change orders and it exceeds that?
it's too bad.
Come back to us.
Okay, but it would still come back to us, but then it wouldn't be under
It's a-
CCNA
The
anymore, would it?
Good faith evaluation beforehand is what's required.
So you're saying 35,000 is the threshold, and they came in at 34,775?
And I'm
Good for
Just
them.
quite certain that they did a good faith estimate of what their engineering would be
Okay.
on that.
David, how was the selection process for Kimley Horn? I mean, was there no one in Highlands County that could do this?
This was someone that Mr. Jones had worked with in the past and had a very good working relationship with them, and he actually asked them to do this.
Okey dokey.
Okay. Any other questions? Does
Should thi-
anyone?
I have a question. Should this have been gone out to bid or not?
For 35,000?
Yeah. Nope. I'm just asking.
It can if you so choose.
Well, the problem with going out to bid at this point is that someone's already submitted this,
Yes,
and
I got
anyone
it.
can come in at, $20 less and, be done.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I haven't looked at your procurement policy, but I assume that that's within there as well. Generally speaking, most procurement policies say, as long as it's good with CCNA, we're good with it too.
Mhm.
That's how it works, generally speaking. But
Got it.
Okay.
All right, does anyone wish to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we award Kim Lee Horn the wastewater plant generator design and engineering in the amount of $34,775.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further questions? Seeing none, we'll call the roll.
Councilmember Gray,
Yes.
Councilmember Spurlock,
Yes.
Councilmember Sutherland,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank
And
you.
a little late, but never, I checked your procurement policy. It does provide the CCNA.
Okay. All right, we have item number 11, initial discussion for fiscal year 1920 fire assessment fees.
Each year, the council is required to pass a resolution setting the fire assessment fee for residential and commercial properties. This item initiates that process. I noticed that last year you had a public hearing on this in July to set what your fire assessment was. Your ordinance allows you to go up to 140 per residential. We are at 80 right now. I did not know if you wanted to have discussion on this to get the ball rolling in case there was some interest in increasing the fire assessment.
In the interest of getting the ball rolling, as I mentioned to David a little earlier, you have traditionally, every year, for as long as I can remember, used Chris Rowe at Bryant, Miller and Olive to advise you on your assessments, and he does a great job at that. So I sent him contact information for Chris Rowe. He actually did one last year as well. So, even after I left, he's been your special assessment person. Bang for buck, going to be cheaper than me. So,
Okay.
if he gets a hold of Chris, then he should advise you as to how to proceed, because there are some fairly quirky advertisement requirements. So you're not required to advertise if you don't go over a certain amount. But you always have to advertise anybody new that has come in. So you still have to advertise, at least, and it has to be in writing.
Yeah.
So you send out your advertisement, and I think it's like 30 days or something like that. Then you had the hearing. So
Okay.
you're kind of running out of time. We need to get it moving pretty quickly.
So can we have him here at the next meeting?
Well, you don't have to have him here.
Okay.
He's from Tallahassee, but you can
Got it.
he can talk to him and get all the information you need.
Okay.
But since we're going to have him or have some advice from him, I was looking on the section 5 where it says that the estimated cost for fiscal year 18-19 is $413,000. And that it also says in here that if any fund is left over, then it carries over as a fund balance. Do you know if we're going to have anything, left over at the end of
I'm going to defer to Mr. Helms.
18-19?
Mr. Helms or
I would
Chief
bet
Marcy
no.
on that? I'm sorry?
I would bet no.
I would bet no, too.
Well, and just bearing in mind the expenses, you're not supposed to recover through the assessment EMS costs or advanced life support, and those have to be separated out. I'm sure you all know that.
Mr. Helms?
Thanks.
Correct. Rick Helms, Finance Director for the record. The expenses of the fire department, not including the EMS, will greatly exceed that $413,000.
In what area did they exceed?
Well, it's actually over $1 million, I believe, is the total.
Yeah, but was it expected to be, the fire assessment was never part of 100% of the fund for the fire department, so part
Correct.
of it was general fund. But did the fire assessment itself, did it throw us off? Are we gonna be short at the end of the year, like over budget?
Your budget for the fire department will be supplemented from other general fund
But when it,
sources.
okay, but
Yes.
what was originally budgeted, was there enough to begin with, is what I'm getting?
No,
How short were we?
I don't have that off the top of my head, but I can get that information for you.
And then my other question is, was there a fund balance carried over in 17 and 18?
Not that I'm aware of, but I will confirm that.
Anyway, I'm just trying to see if we're not charging enough on the fire assessment, obviously.
Yeah.
The fire assessment we've only charged roughly 40% to 50% of the total need.
That's when we dropped it, and when we used to charge more, then it was funded at about 80%.
Right. But it's never been 100%.
No, but it can be at 100%, can it
Could
not?
be, yeah.
So fire
Don't-
trucks, heavy equipment and stuff like that, can that be out of the fire assessment, or does that have to be general
Yes.
fund? Okay,
Or infrastructure fund.
Or infrastructure dollars.
100% without the EMS and advanced life
Right.
support.
Okay.
so
That
when.
covers operating as well as capital.
But
Right.
you may have to redo the ordinance. You'll certainly have to do notice through community-wide notice.
Right.
You did 100%.
Well, even if we raise it to 140 per resident, it's still going to raise it on the business side as well, obviously. And I don't know what those numbers will be because, I mean, the percentages in there, and I don't know what those percentages are for,
Right.
that would correlate to the $80 per dwelling unit. But in the past, I know that what was his name?
Chris Rowe.
Chris Rowe, he had done a really neat template, and it was placed on the city's website, and I don't know if we can do that, but, where you just plug in your address, or you find your address, and, you plug in the number of square feet, or you plug in that you're a resident, and it would pop up a number. That way you knew exactly what that person was going to do, or what they were going to charge. But I guess what I'm getting at is, are we going to have any extra expenses in the fire department that are going to warrant increasing the actual assessment?
The only thing that's on the radar right now that Chief Marcy has informed me of is the expenditure of looking at a new brush truck.
And how much is that,
What
a
truck?
brush truck?
A brush truck.
Are those like super expensive?
Ballpark? 80?
For the record.
For the record,
Correct, that was
80,000.
Chief
Yeah.
Marcy.
Yep.
Yep. Correct me if I'm wrong, too. Is there not going to be discussions on a union contract this year with the fire department in the city?
We haven't been asked to open up the contract.
Okay. Because I know that, first let me say this. I believe that our fire department is the number one fire department, not only in the county, but I think in this general area. And the biggest concern I have is now that we're having a startup process of the Highlands County Fire Department, I want to make sure that our department is paid accordingly. And if that means we have to look into make an adjustment, then I would be for that. But I guess one of the questions I have, which I think has been answered a couple times, is there's 4 categories, so if we adjust one, we have to adjust all 4, correct?
Right.
So then it's either done by a percentage or something like that.
Right.
Right.
And just as a talking point, on the residential side, if you raise the assessment $20, that would generate approximately $107,000.
Okay.
That's
And we'd
not-
still be paying, and it still would only be paying about 45% of the fire operations,
Correct.
right?
Okay.
And then,
Yeah.
so you're still subsidizing it with other taxes? Okay.
Right.
I
Yeah.
personally would like to see it just go up a little higher, so that we have the funds available to work on other projects internally with the city, whether it be general fund funds.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to
But-
be part of a larger conversation
Right.
because number one, we've only funded, roughly 40 to 45% currently. So you have to look at how much more the general fund is going to need and what sort of a shortfall we're going to have there, and do a balance between, do you raise fire assessment, do you raise taxes, do you lower them, where do you need to be? So it kind of needs to be part of a larger conversation. So
But, David, I think you're going to need to check with the county tax assessor to see
Yeah.
when you have a deadline to get them the information. Because the reason we have to do this earlier than the
Mhm.
budget, unfortunately, is so you can get it on the tax rolls. Because if you can try and go out and collect it by hand, forget about it.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
For the, if you said if you raise the residential $20 more, that would be $100 per resident. If you raise the residents, do you have to raise the rest of them as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that would be more.
Right.
You have to
And
raise them
those
all.
are like the businesses and the commercial, that's based on a square footage rate instead of just a flat fee. So that would have to be adjusted the way y'all would want to do it, basically.
Right.
Well, I noticed that on this Appendix B form, it was brought up in 2018-19 on July 9th of 2018. So do we need to schedule something
so-
if we're going to discuss this?
That's why I was saying, I think we're actually a little late. Because
Yes.
I think the first reading's usually in July, getting you in August. But, I think you can do a special meeting if you need to. And you just need to get in contact with Chris so you can get a time frame. And speak to the county
Tax assessment.
Texas.
Property appraiser?
property appraiser. Thank you.
Yep, I got a note to do that in the morning.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right.
I wasn't asking for any action tonight, just
Okay.
bringing this up for you.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on that? Item number 11?
Yep.
Seeing none?
Okay, I've got my update sheet in front of you. The spreadsheet in red letters. The red letters are the things that have changed. The insurance adjuster for the Brickell building will be here July 9th to discuss that and the Classic Caladium building. The airport taxiway project, we did receive one bid from El Cobb Construction on that. That was last Wednesday or Thursday, I believe. Need to
That's
find
it?
out if we can accept one bid or if we have to go through the process again. We're waiting on an answer on that. Additional DEO grant was submitted last week for additional funding for the North Water, wastewater and water extension. A DEP grant is to be pursued and possible. I've been playing phone tag with a man from Atlanta about the possibility of an EDA, Economic Development Federal Grant, which looks a little promising on just the little messages that we've had back and forth on that. But on the DEP grant, if we apply for that, which we've got 2 days to do this, that's the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. I'm going to read you what Ronnie sent to me today. According to Tim Banks at FDEP, we would need to complete the request for inclusion on the Clean Water State Revolving Fund priority list by close of business on the 26th. This is not a difficult form to complete, and we can potentially receive up to $4.5 million. It's an 80-20 grant loan, meaning 80% is a grant, 20% is a zero-interest loan for 20 years. And since we can only have one of those grants loans at a time, Mr. Banks suggested we should do this not only for the US 27 North utility lines, but also for the much-needed upgrades at the wastewater treatment plant to move us from a 35-year-old wastewater treatment plant with a 1.5 million gallons per day permit to a modern wastewater treatment plant with a 2.0 million gallons per day permit. This upgrade would cost about $2 million. This buys us much needed room in our permit for new development, which we know will come until we can afford the 4-year process of design, permitting, and building an expensive $15 to $17 million cost of doubling the wastewater treatment plant process and a permit at that time of 3 to 4 MGD. One of the requirements for the construction is the use of American steel. The link to the, okay, I confirmed by the phone all that was done. Example 1.5 million US 27 North extension, 2.0 wastewater, 2.0 million wastewater treatment plant modernization and small permit increase from 1.5 to 2.0. The grant loan at 3.5 million at 80% forgiven would leave us of $700,000 at 0% for 20 years, which would be about $3,000 per month, which is more than covered by what we're going to be getting from some of our customers on the north end of this line already.
So that's between that and the rural infrastructure, that's $1.5 million. And what we needed was 1.3, because that was the balance left over after that initial proposed opinion, right?
Correct.
So you say it's forgiven, the 80% is forgiven? At
80%
what
is
point is it forgiven?
At the beginning, I think.
So it's a loan, but then they forgive it as soon as you sign the dotted line?
That's the way I'm looking at it. 80% is a grant, the 20%.
Yes, sir.
You do? Corey? Okay.
Help us out, Corey.
Hi, Corey from
Corey's
Newport.
the one that turned us on to this.
Yeah, we had a call.
Name and address, please.
Corey Elaine, Newport Steel.
Newport Steel, got it.
22 Newport Drive. We had a call with Tim, with the
Banks.
DEP, Tim Banks, last week, trying to just, connect some dots. And the 80% forgiveness, my understanding of it was it's determined up front and it's based on economic and demographic data per the 2010 census report. And the two requirements to gain the 80% forgiveness was to have a population below 10,000, which as of 2010, Avon Park did. And then the per capita income had to be less than the average state per capita income, which also would qualify. So on the phone call, he said he believes it would qualify easily and didn't even hesitate, but he's also available to answer any of those questions.
And then once you apply within 2 days, how long before you hear back from them?
I would say probably 30 to 60 days, but if we don't ask, we don't get anything.
Right.
You're nice.
So
Yeah, it was
nothing ventured,
August.
nothing gained.
So if you apply by next Wednesday, it's for funding that they award or grant,
Mhm.
whatever,
Yeah.
in August.
Oh, good.
If you miss that window of next,
to wait.
2 days from now, the next window is funds available in November, which you apply, I think, in August or September.
Well, I would just suggest that we have a plan B just in case it doesn't go through. I mean, we already have 750 this and then 750 there, but if one of those doesn't materialize, we're going to be short 750 or 750,000. I would hope that perhaps we can get on the county commission agenda and see if they want to partake in some cost sharing of these lines. And we just need to, lobby with our current county commissioner. I saw him in here earlier, I believe. Oh, there he is. Anyway, and just see if they're willing to help cost share with this. 10% of the county residents are going to be taking the risk
Thank you,
for this
Corey.
project. And I think that the 90% of the residents that are not inside the city of Avon Park are not assuming any risk. And I think it would be fair for us to ask the county, because in the end, they're going to be getting all of the tax revenue from whatever else comes into that area. So it doesn't hurt to ask. All they can do is say no. So we can try.
Okay.
Can
Corey,
I,
you have something
can I
else?
add one more thing, just so you know? Some of our, a company we worked with in Tallahassee informed us that the 20% that in the loan oftentimes will be forgiven through another fund that you could request, and he felt this project, it wasn't talking about the 4 million or whatever, just the portion, the 750, would qualify for forgiveness on the other 20% as well. And he was more than willing to help guide on that. So,
Awesome.
just so you know.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Corey.
Thank
Hooray
you.
for grants.
Okay, charter revisions was,
Jim?
One sec.
Clarify what Corey was talking about. I'm Jim Brooks. The reason this money, the short window on the application, this is state money from DEP, and their budget year ends July the 31st. So that's why it's got to be done.
Now.
It's money they've got available this year,
Good.
not next year.
Okay. Thank you, Jim.
Let's ask for it.
okay, we did the charter revisions tonight. The Wild Building, I'm going to prepare an RFQ on that because the bids exceed the limit. RPAC approved our changes on moving the equipment. We are proceeding with that project. We've got the Christmas brochure here, right? Did you make any notes in it?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so we'll take note of those notes, and then Mr. Spurlock will give that to you, and you can take a look at it. And then we'll have that back by the next meeting. Small parcel annexation, I'm gonna try to meet with Cruiser Cruise to discuss some further action on that. Basketball court on Main Street, we discussed 2 weeks ago, the Summit Street Park. I went over and looked at it. That court is in fine shape. It needs to be repainted, and it needs new nets on the baskets themselves. I spoke to a lady that lives right there in front of it, and I asked her if that thing was used frequently, and she said it's used a lot more than I'm comfortable with. So it does get use. So
Well,
do we build another one, or is it needed?
let me just make a couple comments. I went by and looked at it also. One of the things that you bring up about the parking lot on Main Street by using that is the price of a fence. There is no fence around the Summit Park basketball court.
Well, but a ball's not gonna fall on the train track either.
No. I
That's
didn't-
why you need the backstop, so the ball doesn't go to the
But if
train
it goes in
track.
the street, isn't that also considered dangerous?
I'm sorry?
If it
Yep.
goes in the street, isn't that also dangerous?
Thank you, Mayor.
Well, it could be, yes.
Okay, and there's also no lighting but there is set up for existing lighting here on Main Street, even though it never was hooked up. So that's just two different things to look at. I think it's, instead of apples and apples, it's apples and oranges. So it's like, you know, I personally would love to see it on Main Street because, one, that parking lot would then get used, because other than that, it only gets used approximately once a year. And second of all, it would be nice to drive down Main Street and see our children using that court on a daily basis, a weekend basis, or whatever, where I'm not sure about.
And it does have a restroom facility, whereas the other one doesn't.
That's
And it's
another
never
point.
open.
That's another point too. And, you
It's-
know,
It's locked all the time, though.
Hey,
you know,
thank you.
I mean, I remember that, like, we're talking about Christmas. Last year, we spent $15,000 on a float. We're probably looking at somewhere around that much money or more for
15,000.
decorating Main Street for one day at Christmas, or 1 month during Christmas. You know, to me, that amount of money for that park is, you could go out for other bids, but I don't think that that's substantial to have a use of a parking lot that's just sitting there with a perfect blacktop, and to put up a fence and hook up the lights would be a fantastic situation, because then the children of this city could use it at night at the same time besides daytime. That's just my opinion.
Jim, is that something that perhaps the new advisory board can look at and possibly work on Main Street section to pay for that?
You know, that they could, but I'll just tell you this. I brought this up last year, and it went nowheres. And I was given the same option to put it at that same location, and nothing was ever done. No backboard, no nets were put up. And now we're bringing it up again, and I brought this up more than 3 months ago with the idea that we could have something available by the beginning of summer when kids get out of school, which is like the end of May or June. So we're halfway through June, so before we do anything, it's going to be July. And it's just say, kids, go out there and use that park that's, you know, got weeds growing around it. I just don't think that's satisfactory when we have money for budget for other things that I think that for beautification of the mall, and I got something to talk about that also. That's just my own opinion.
Jim, if you make a motion and it gets passed, I can assure you it'll get done.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we go ahead and spend the money, whether it's $1,775 plus $600 to hook up lighting and a fence so that we can have a basketball court on Main Street and the existing location of the parking lot.
Okay,
Anyone-
there's no estimate, there's no cost estimate on the lighting.
Okay? All right.
We need a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions? Seeing none, we'll call the roll.
Councilmember Gray,
There, no,
Councilmember Spurlock,
Yes.
Councilmember Sutherland,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And while we're on the subject of basketball, the MLK basketball court does not have lights, so we need an estimate for that as well.
I agree with that too, and I think that needs to be used more often also.
Right, that one gets used a lot. I can
Yeah.
hear the balls bouncing all the time.
Oh, good, I'm happy to hear that.
All right, moving on.
This Thursday, the county fire department and the city of Sebring Fire Department have organized a boot drive for collection of donations for the Muscular Dystrophy Association. This event is going to be held at the Sebring Walmart. Chief Marcy brought this to my attention today, asking for permission to take one of our not primary response trucks down to the Sebring Walmart to help collect funds for MDA. This would be our like number 3 call-out truck that they would take down there, and this would be done by off-duty fire department members, union members. I didn't feel comfortable giving permission to take the thing out of the city limits a couple of miles, but I told him I'd bring it to y'all tonight and ask you what you thought.
I don't have a problem with it.
As long as it says Avon Park all over it,
does.
I'm okay.
Absolutely. Okay.
And they're in uniform.
Okay, so we'll do that.
No problem.
Mr. Snell had asked us at the last meeting to contact Publix. We have done that by email and phone, and no response yet. We will stay on top of that. Got an agreement back from FDOT today for the maintenance agreement. They pay us to maintain Some of the lights, we have 244 street lights. They're paying us $63,982.66. Just wanted to bring that to your attention, that's a good thing.
That's,
Okay.
that's our city lights
That's
pictures?
the one, all the lights up on the highway and the street lights.
Okay, not the black ones above
No,
them,
no,
okay,
no, these are the,
all right.
Okay.
I have just a notice here. There's a, Megan, they already left. There's going to be a Duke Energy site readiness presentation. I think everyone got an email on it, but the public may not be aware. There's a meeting at the University Center over here at SFSC on
July 11th. I think.
July 11th at 2:30 regarding the readiness program that they have. They do their own marketing, and they're going to be marketing also the northern portion of Highlands County on behalf of Highlands County and the city for that matter. So that's just a public meeting and anyone can attend.
Okay. Jim, you mentioned something about mall
Yeah.
beautification.
Yeah, I got a couple of things. On the mall beautification, I noticed that we had a crew out there cutting the mall. They did a fantastic job. It looks great. I noticed the sprinklers are up and running from what I could tell. That's great. But one thing I did notice is the community center, the lawn there, the grass had not been done any maintenance on it in probably a few weeks. I don't understand why, if we're going out there and doing the mall, why wouldn't they turn around and do the community center, which is on Main Street? So my suggestion is that maybe we get somebody assigned that they go around and follow things like this to make sure certain things like this are taken care of. I mean, I know that in the past we used to have people do this, and we could even have a code enforcement person do this. But I just think it doesn't look good if the mall area looks great, and then here we look over at the War Dog Memorial, and the grass is like this high, hadn't been maintained whatsoever. It just doesn't look well.
And I will correct that. The only thing that I could possibly offer as an excuse is the very erratic rain patterns that we've had in the last few weeks. We're past that now.
Yep.
But that was making it an absolute nightmare to try to mow because of we didn't know when it was going to rain and for how long.
Well, I understand that, David, but they did the mall on Friday.
I
They could've just
understand,
drove
and I'm
across
not
the
making excuses. I'm just
Okay.
saying as a possible
Okay.
informational piece there.
Yeah, and David, to piggyback on that, one of the pet peeves that I've seen with that crew in particular is they tend to skip areas. You know, so they'll go good for 1,000 feet, and then all of a sudden you'll have 50 feet of
Fuzzy
edging
grass.
or something that didn't get done or weeds didn't get picked, and then it'll continue on for another 1,000 feet and everything's great. And it's probably a somewhat difficult problem to solve outside of having someone babysit, but you know,
We have a manager for that department, right?
there has to be some type of
Some responsibility.
cohesion. Yeah, just something to get it more uniform, because even around the lake and things like that, you just have those areas that get forgotten.
Yeah.
You know, and it sticks out like a sore thumb.
And to be quite honest with you, I probably would have brought these up to you directly, but since we didn't get our pamphlet until late Friday, you know, you were off, I understand, which is a good reason, but didn't have much chance to communicate. But I also wanted to bring up, unfortunately, about the recycle bins. I noticed that there was an article in the newspaper that basically said that we were pretty much done with that. I want you to know that evidently some people must have heard that, because I saw a few recycle bins that evidently the garbage people had turned them upside down to pick up, and they were not picked up. They were there entire weekend. One is on Lake Avenue, one is on Pleasant. I also noticed that even where I live, there's half a dozen recycle bins that are still on the property as well as on Pleasant. I personally would be willing, if you gave me some type of a sticker thing, to go knock on doors and say, hey, did you know we're supposed to pick these up? Would you mind putting it up next week to be picked up? Or leave them a card and say, please, this is the last day we're going to do it. Because I think we might have up to maybe 1,000 of those left.
I'm sure we do.
And I personally would happy to go do it, but I'm sure code enforcement could do it too as they're driving around the city. You know, I know that we're not supposed to go on the property.
Right.
But I don't see why you can't go up and knock on a door, because I understand probably some people have 3 reasons for it. 1, they just don't know any better. 2, they maybe want to use it for personal use of carrying yard waste around and taking it out to the corner and dump it?
No.
Possibly, or three, or I'm not even gonna tell you what number 3 is, but I will tell you this, there's also, I need to know, I know that we've hired a lot of people on staff. I know, and I really appreciate the fact that you've got a lot of these people that were part-time, full-time. And so I think we might have some extra hours there to maybe get somebody else trained for this new clam truck coming up and doing some of these other things where it actually goes around, that make sure that everything was done properly. So, like I said, normally I would bring these to you directly. I hate to bring it up right now, but over the weekend, stuff just popped up, and it's like, I think we're trying to improve our city, and we need to get on top of things, and these are just small little things. And so I would like to see us come up with some type of a note to put on somebody's door, and you can give me all you want, and I'll try to hit as much on the north side as I could. Anybody else wants to help me, that's fine, or unless you want to give the job to some existing city people working. But I think just to say people, hey, would you please put it out? If they don't do it, they don't do it. But, I've even where I live, I see a half a dozen just right there, just sitting there 10 feet away from the street. I mean,
They can go on the utility bill. I mean, a little message can be
Yes, but
going on the utility. I
people-
mean, not everyone reads it.
Not everybody reads the utility bill, not every.
I know, but I mean, it's
Not
just
everybody
one
reads their
other.
newspaper anymore because.
And we did put
costs
that on
went
the
up.
utility bill for like
And,
2 months in a row.
When I was in the utility business, door hangers, worked
Yes.
great,
So like I
just
said,
on the door.
I'd like to give it one more shot, is what I'm trying to say.
We haven't totally abandoned it. We're
Okay,
still
and I-
Well,
picking
you
them
know
up.
what? When you're picking up the gray garbage cans and they see one parked in there, then they can just slap something on the gray garbage can without having to knock on a door. I mean, that right there would eliminate it. They're
I
already
think they did
standing
that
there.
before, didn't they?
I don't know if they did, no,
But
we
that
didn't.
might work,
Not under me.
Oh.
They're right there.
All right,
Yeah.
Anne Marie, you have something?
Hi, Anna Marie Feeney, President, the Battle of the Bands, 234 East Camphor Street here in Avon Park. Two quick things. When we did our dedication ceremony for the War Dog Monument, I personally went out and had Florida-friendly plants and brought them and put them in the raised planter beds at the community center, and it was beautiful. I would like to turn around and make the offer that if the city so desires, the Battle of the Bands will get them, purchase them, and install them in those raised planter beds to help beautify the front of the community center.
But at the end of the day, they still need water to establish. So, I mean, no matter what you put there, we have to have irrigation, even though they're Florida-friendly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you still need a watering period, and I don't know that the rain is going to be enough. So unless the water is there, then there's...
Well,
it's-
there's water spigots in both. So
Yeah,
it would
but
just
do
be
they
a s-
work?
Yes, they do. They do work. I know, because I turned around and had to water the grass for the sod that's around the war dog. And I brought a hose from there out to it and watered that.
Well, I would just say, it's my personal opinion, I would rather see what we have be taken care of than add more to it. That's going to be more work for our workers. So let's take care of what we have. I know that David's working on a master plan for maintenance and all that stuff, and maybe once we get that going, we can start doing other areas. I'd like to see the four corners done of Lake and Main. I mean, they look kind of scraggly, but, you install it, there's no guarantee that it's going to get done because, I mean, their plate is full right now. So let's take care of what we have,
Okay. Also,
unless you
There-
want to water them.
I got no problem with that.
Get you a hose.
If it'll
and
make
you
it
can
look
go out
right,
there.
I got no problem with that. I'll bring a couple of buckets of water out there. I don't care.
Daily.
But the fact of the there's one other thing. There are two trees on Main Street that I have watched grow nothing but moss for years. It's to the point now where you see a couple of little green sprigs of leaves, and then they look like giant moss popsicle sticks. Can we please get someone out there? Please get someone out there to just grab that moss and pull it down so that those trees can start living again.
Yeah, but
because they're
typically-
being choked off.
But when you get moss and those little cruddy air plants, it's the sign of a diseased tree. So it might be that the tree needs
Yeah,
to
well,
go.
in all fairness, the jacaranda, the big trees had plenty of moss in them. Over by the Ark, that had moss from the
Which trees
canopy
are you
all the
talking
way down.
about?
There are two little trees. You come
Yep.
up Main Street and you just see them. They're just there.
Take a
They're
picture
near
of
the
them.
Methodist church. They're
Point
in
'em
that
out.
centerpiece
Yeah,
by the
just
Methodist
take a
church.
picture and send it to the city manager, and maybe he can.
Yeah.
Get-
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have two things.
Go ahead.
Number one, I had 4 calls Saturday because the track's locked up. People can't walk around and exercise on the asphalt track.
Track?
One guy called me
Memorial
up.
Field.
The
MLK
track.
Field.
Where?
The track.
Okay.
He said, I've been walking on that track for 58 years. He said, I walk it with 3 other ladies. We walk it every Saturday. And it's locked up. We need to find out a way to take care of that.
Don't the Boys and Girls Club do that?
he
Only if
locks
they
it
know.
up.
Only if they know to open up and unlock it and stuff, but that's.
It's locked up on the weekend. It
Yeah,
locks it up.
but this is what we had discussed. Remember when we had the nonprofits going in there, that we were gonna lock everything up, and there's gonna be like a little sign that says, if you wanna get in, call this number. And we brought up the issue of the pay for play, and I mean, I personally would like to see people being able to use it. I've had one lady come to my house with 3 kids in tow, you know, saying we go there every Tuesday and Thursday afternoons and just play. They just play in the field. And I hate to see it locked up because these are just neighborhood people that want a place to go. And Donaldson Park is too far for them to go. Aline McWhite is too far as well. And she's got like a 4-year-old. They're small kids. Anyway, you know, we talked about doing contracts and stuff for people, but we have to figure out a way where it's open, if that's what we're going to do. If we have to lock off only Memorial Field, the football field, because that's the one that's most protected, and leave the track open,
Right.
then that might be something that we can consider. But then we got to look at, you know, fencing and the whole 9
It doesn't have
yards.
to be answered tonight, but we
Yeah.
just need to be thinking that way.
But I mean, I'd like to keep it open for the public because there are people that do exercise there. I mean, I used to go there all the time and I quit doing that myself because it's locked. But, you know, I can handle that. But people with kids, it's a little more
Yeah, I
difficult.
think there's usually access to the high school track too, one way or another. You can
And-
get
Yeah,
in
but the
there.
people that are walking
Well, I know.
probably walk, yeah,
I'm
it's
just saying, if it's there, we could make it work here too.
And
That's
that's
all I'm
someone.
saying.
true, yeah.
And I'm trying to still get a roster of every city employee that I talked to you about. And the money that we're paying for that, I don't have that roster.
You said you'd have it next meeting.
We discussed that earlier. You're gonna have it at the next meeting. Everybody's gonna have it.
I heard that.
You asked me for that June 14th, and then Ricky was gone the whole next week after that, so he couldn't run the report. He's back today. I brought it to his attention. He's gonna have it ready for us for the next meeting.
Okay. That's, I don't even want to start no debate tonight, but that was not the first time I've asked for it. I mean, I've been asking for it ever since, but, I'll wait till next time.
All right, that concludes our regularly scheduled agenda. Is there anything else to bring before the city? Seeing none.
4th of July, what time does it start? When are the fireworks? Is it at 8, 9?
Usually 9:15.
Yep. They won't do it till it's dark,
Okay.
so, okay. Anything else? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Seeing no opposition, we are adjourned.
Morse code. SOS.
Yep.
Did you get one?
I got one.
Thank you, Stanley. I must be on your most favored list.
You're welcome. Yep.
Can I read?